All right, day 140. Today, we're going to be looking at another area in Johnson County in Kansas City, just outside of Kansas City. This is on the Kansas line. And today is Saturday. We'll be releasing a podcast episode I did with Tyler, who's the GC in this area in his market. So, hey, when you find a contractor that has that experience, I personally have not used him before, full disclosure, but when I ask him the right questions and I hear about his experience being a past Section 8 inspector, well, that gives me a little bit more confidence that they know what they're doing. So let's analyze some more deals in this area, right? Because I think everybody asks, like, hey, what do you recommend getting started in? And my viewpoint is that you always go with the market that you have the most confidence in. And usually confidence comes from having a strong team in place. So this is why I decided to go and analyze some deals in Kansas City. So in Johnson County here, you got Overland Park on the southwest of the Kansas City metro. And I've been looking at Overland Park, all the way Johnson County, all the way into southwest. And I went all the way down to Olathe. I'm assuming I'm saying that correctly. Olathe, Kansas. So let's see, which property did I think would even have close to being a chance? So this is the property on 1213 South Payne Street. It originally listed as 6 beds. They didn't disclose any bathrooms or square footage, so we're gonna have to look that up later. It just dropped by 30 grand, so that kind of caught my eyes a little bit. But this is a brand new construction over old location, same foot plan, all new from ground up to roof. This is a full duplex. 2 bed, 1 bath on each side. So I'm assuming the 6 bed thing was a home that used to be there, maybe, but it's now just a 2 bed, 1 bath. I wish it was a little bit bigger, but that's okay. They have new walls, electrical, roofing, firewalls, HVAC, plumbing, cabinets. Okay, so pretty much brand new. Built in 2023, according to this. Where am I on the market? So it's near a medical center, so I feel good about that. What else is around here? An industrial park. All right, let's do a quick street drive-by. Typically what we do every single time. Nothing in front. Nothing's jumping out to me yet. What is this kind of it's an industrial market? What is this? Am I building something there? Trying to get a read on that sign. What does that sign say? Coming soon, warehouse. Okay. Good to know that they're building in this area. That makes you feel a little bit better about it. Let's go ahead and try to look up the crime score in this area. Crime score. I'm using tophap.com, tophap.com. Once you get here, you just kind of click on the neighborhood section. Let's see what the crime score is with this area. 81. That's good. That's pretty low. I'm assuming it's because you're really far out in the burbs there, so it doesn't really matter. So let's keep on going. So neighborhood kind of checks out so far. There are floor plans on this bedroom. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing special about this floor plan. Well, 2-1. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the FMR. Usually we look up HUD FMR, but today I'll show you guys. Well, I'll look at the FMR just to kind of keep the process consistent for all of you. And let's look up HUD FMR. Whoops, type in SA FMR. And I'm gonna go click on the small area FMR. This is in looking up 2024 form. This is in Kansas. This is in Johnson County. And once I get to Johnson County, this property is in zip code 66061. Oops, where did that go? 66061. A 2 bedroom here is 1150 as the fair market rent. So that's a rent ceiling. Okay. Now, if you looked up the Johnson County payment standards right here, they have updated their 2024 payment standards, and this includes utilities, right? Amount includes rent plus utility allowance. And if you are in our Facebook community, you will know that I have posted some more payment standards lately so that it helps everybody with their research. So that my goal is to eventually consolidate all the housing authorities payment standards into one area, so it makes it tremendously resourceful and easy for folks to look them up. But the one thing I would caution here is that, hey, we saw that the FMR is 1150. And then now we're seeing that the payment standard is 1509. So chances are the delta between 1509 and 1150 is going to be your utility allowances. Make sense? All right. So if you're not covering utilities, I would assume that your max rent is 1150. Now, we also, because there's still the rent reasonableness test, we went to affordablehousing.com, we go to owner section, market rent estimator, plugged in the address, plugged in the bedroom count, and we're going to focus on this number here on the far right. It says that on average for 25 units within a 1.3-mile radius, the average rent was 1,017. So I would say your best case scenario is 1150. Granted, it's only $150 difference, but it's going to be good for you to point out to the housing authority that you have essentially a brand new build. So that might justify why you get the higher end of the spectrum for rent on this property. Now, the zip code is 1618. And then within a 1.3-mile radius is 1,017. 1.36. The reason I'm getting down these numbers here again is because Johnson County, write this down. My partners already know how I research all these rents. So I'm going to put these down here so that I save them some time. So Johnson County payment standards. Payment standard, and this is HUD, SA, FMR. So I'm assuming that's no utilities and your utilities paid. So I'm going to write all these numbers down so my partners can easily know what I was doing here. And this is for 0 to 4. So 0, including utilities, 1182, 1317 for a 1-bedroom, 1509 for a 2-bedroom, 1974 for a 3-bedroom, and 2317 for a 4-bedroom. And just remember, this includes utilities. For no utilities, let's kind of get up the HUD FMR website. I'm just going to assume that this is the number that I'll be using. And so the numbers here is going to be, let me slide this over so you guys can see it. 900 for a studio, 1,000 for a 1-bed, 1,150 for a 2-bed, 1,500. Wow, what a big jump, right? Big jump from 2 to a 3, 1,500 and 1,770 for a 4-bed. So significant difference. I personally, if I was doing this, I would have definitely turned this duplex into a 3-bed, 1-bath if I could have, because it's $350 difference. It's huge difference. It almost does not make any sense for you to not do a 3-bed on that. The jump from a 1 to 2 is $150, but jump from a 2 to a 3 is $350. Huge difference. So that's sort of the thought process I put into my head whenever I'm thinking about whether or not something is worth a while to increase the bedroom count on a property. All right. So next thing we want to do is let's gauge the rehab on this property. It seems like it's brand new. So I think we might want to, we don't provide washer dryers because that's at my advice on my GC, but I'll probably put in a refrigerator in here because the stove is already there. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna put in a fridge there. All right. So on this property, I'm assuming I don't need to do much. It's a brand new roof. So I'm gonna zero that out. I'll keep in $500 to keep the place clean while I am renovating the property. I'm assuming I don't need to do any painting. I'm assuming I don't need to redo any flooring. For the bathrooms, they look fine. I'm just going to replace the toilets with the high pressure flush toilets because that's my personal preference. You do not have to do that. We've got 2 refrigerators right here. Must have put in the microwaves too, huh? Was there a dishwasher? Let's see. There is no dishwasher. Okay. All right, let's keep on going. I'm assuming the water here is good, but I always like to just double check. Now putting a little bit extra money there. So 8,400 just as like a renovation reserve, right? Just in case something happens and I have to do something. If anything, it'd just be put towards holding costs. All right. So now for my rent, I'm going to use 10. This property was listed for $249,950. I got $8,400 for rehab. I got $2,100 right now for my rent, which is essentially at 1050 times 2. If you want, we could probably put this to 1,100 because it's slightly below the fair market rent, but it's still below the payment standard. So let's do 1,100. Let's see what happens. All right. And then I'm going to assume my property taxes is taken right from this website at $123. And then my home insurance is $1,662. So I'm going to multiply that by 1.2 because I'm adding a investor premium on the property. So that's $195 a month. I'm setting aside 10% every month for maintenance. I'm setting aside 10% every month for property management and 5% for vacancy. Okay. At right now, if I assume I'm putting 25% down and I'm getting a DSCR loan for, let's say, 2/1/2024 for 8% interest rate. So I'll move it over so you guys can see it. No balloon, 30 years. So that's 30-year term, 12 months. I would be negative $42 a month. So let's write this down. 2,200 was the total rent. My cash flow for a month is negative $43. And my cash and cash return is negative 0.7. And my purchase price is 249. Let's write $250,000 just to make my life a little easier. You guys understand exactly what scenario I'm going, what I mean by 250. My rehab right now is approximately 8,400. That's assuming 25% down and 8% interest rate. Okay, cool. What do I need to purchase this by in order for this to be a 10% cash and cash return at least? Because this is a pretty good area, great schools and everything. So what if I lowered this to 125,000 just to mess around with it? Too low because that's 18% return. What I lowered to 200 grand? 175, 165. There you go. 9.5%. So this would be a deal technically at $165,000 because my cash and cash return is 9.5. And I'm just messing around with the scenario so you can understand that for every single property, there is a set of terms or price that makes it a deal. And this was assuming 25% down, 8% interest rate. Now, what if you say, well, what if I'm able to use my own W-2 income to qualify and I can get a loan for, let's say, 6.5% interest rate? Pretty low, but then you are also de-risking it because the lender is using your income, let's say from your W-2 job, to qualify for this deal. So if you were able to get it for 6.5%, now all of a sudden, right, your own circumstances allows you to pay more for the property. Now all of a sudden you might be willing to pay 180 grand for the property, right? $180,000. Whoops, extra zero. Everything else is still the same, 25% down, but the only thing different is that your interest rate right now is going to be different at 6.5%. And your rent is 2,200 and your cash flow per month is $479. That results in a 9.9% cash and cash return. See what the interest rate just did to your willingness to pay as an investor, right? That 1.5% interest rate signaled a difference of almost $15,000 on this property, assuming your criteria is 10%. Now, obviously, everybody has different investment criteria. Everybody has different objectives. Some people prioritize cash flow. Some people prioritize appreciation. Some people prioritize both, right? If you can get a little bit of cash flow, but then or maybe you break even, but you're in a great neighborhood with high appreciation, that might be enough for some people. Again, this is not investment advice. I'm not soliciting any investments at all from anybody. I'm just simply showing you what I'm doing every single day to get my practice in, to get my reps in, because this is the uncool side. This is the unsexy side of real estate investing. For you to buy 100 properties, chances are you probably had to analyze 1,000 properties or 10x that. So the last thing I'll do is let me see if I can look up if there's an underlying loan in place, because we learn about creative finance and subject to community. And let's see if there's underlying loan in place for this deal. And if there is, we'll see whether or not we can propose terms, because this probably just dropped a 30 grand, right? So the seller might be more motivated. This is the time when you can offer a creative deal because there's actually some motivation to getting the property sold. So this property is 1213 South Payne, 1213 South Payne in Ola. And let's go to the detail section. I'm assuming someone took a construction loan, so it's not a primary residence loan. Okay, so it looks like the person bought it cash. And chances are They bought this in June 2022. Interesting. Pride Kings Incorporated. So there's no underlying loan according to this, or maybe it's just not reported or not reflected. Well, let's play out a scenario. What if this person owns it free and clear, right? They funded with all the cash. Now they just want to make some money off of it. Well, what if I was able to give them the price that they want? What would make this a deal for me? So let's just say it's $250,000. Just make real easy numbers here. At $250,000, I can tell the person, hey, in order for me to hit a 10% cash and cash return, I can give you, let's go down to 10%. Okay. Now let's start lowering my interest rate in order to bring up my cash and cash return. So focus on this number while I adjust this interest rate. So if I go down to 3% interest rate, whoops, that's now 11.62, 3.25. Cool. 3.5. Cool. So I can offer this person a 10% down, 3.5% interest rate, and that will allow me to give the seller $250,000 for this property. And I'll still achieve my cash and cash goal of 10%. Because even though I'm cash flowing $322 a month, I'm still getting a great deal because I don't have to pay 3.5% for my money. Well, what the seller wants, a bigger down payment, right? Because they paid cash for the deal and they want to get some money out. Well, first of all, let me highlight one more fact. If you're giving this person a 3.5% interest rate, and let's just say it's a 30-year amortization, but you tell the seller, hey, I'll pay you off in 10 years. Well, here's the balloon amount. And if you really want to highlight to the seller on how much they're really making, well, you can highlight all the interest payments in the calculator on the loan one tab, highlight the first 120 interest payments, and you'll see that the person that's selling it on seller finance is actually going to make another $70,450. 70,450. 70,450. And this is how you make it more appealing to the seller. You can ask the seller, hey, what are you going to do with this money when I pay you? Is it going to sit in a bank account? Well, if it is, what if I gave you 3.5% interest rate on the deal? So not only are you going to get the price that you want, so you don't have to do any more price shops, which is what they're doing right now, you will also make another $70,450 in 10 years because of how the amortization schedule works. Right? The first 10, 15 years, primarily most of your payments are interest payments, not principal payments. Hopefully that makes sense for folks. So at the end of this, you're going to get your balloon payment for $174,000 plus the $70,450 plus the 25 grand, which means that you would have sold this property for $269,000. $269,000, not $250. Right? It's all about how you present it and what matters the most to the seller. I'm not saying this is definitely going to be a deal, but something for you to think about. Well, what if the seller wants more money? So now let's play around with let's turn this back to 20% down. But now my interest rate is my cash and cash returns only 8%. Well, I'm going to lower my interest rate again from 3.5% to see what would turn this into an 8% cash and cash return. So if I lower this number right here, in case 17, 2%, let's go down 2%. Boom, 2.25. That's 10.5%. So I can give them a bigger down payment at 20%, but the only amount of interest rate I can give them is 2.25. So my total interest in 10 years is now 39,379, 39,379, 39,379. And my balloon amount is going to be 147,640. So now the total amount is going to be 147,640 plus 39,000 plus another 50 grand, which leaves them with 237. So lots of different ways to kind of mess around with these scenarios to determine what will make it a deal for you personally. Now, my cash and cash return here is 10.5. So I can give them 20% down if they lower my interest rate to 2.25%, because that's still a 10.5% cash and cash return. And now I would be cash flowing $568 a month. And that was all assuming the rent stayed the same. So I try to highlight in blue where the terms change for all of us. so you can figure out how to cash and cash return. So in this scenario, you can offer all these sets of terms because they all still yield you about 10% cash and cash return. That's my criteria for a very upscale neighborhood that still has some promise for appreciation, but you can never underwrite for appreciation, right? So if I was in a pure market, such pure cash flow market, such as someone's Detroit, which might not even be applicable to Detroit anymore because of how high they've been going up, but other areas such as Birmingham, which has very little appreciation, well, I might want 15% cash and cash return there. It's all depending on you and how you look at things. So hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for tuning in on a Saturday. Thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Seriously, without folks like you, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So thank you so much for tuning in on a Saturday, staying consistent with me. And really, again, I continue to get questions about how to get started and what steps should I take. Well, you got to pick a market and you got to learn to spot a deal. And sometimes it's really hard to figure out how to get started. I'm making it as easy as possible. You can simply just copy my homework, put it on your own YouTube channel, analyzing the same deal using the same spreadsheet, and you can put it on your own YouTube channel so that in a year from now, if you do it every day like I've been doing it, there's a day 140 for us. Well, you would spend about 100 hours underwriting deals just by sparing 18 minutes a day. And from that, you will be better at underwriting deals than 95% of America. It's that simple. Consistency compounds over time. And more importantly, if you ever have a partner ask you, hey, why do you think this is the deal? Well, you can point them to your own YouTube channel and say, I know this is the deal because, well, I looked at the past 100 deals, 300 deals, all my YouTube page, and they were all not deals. That's how I know this is the deal. Might that give them a little bit more confidence? Might that give you a little bit more confidence? I certainly hope so. This is why I do this. Sometimes I felt so lost in the beginning when I was started, so lonely, and I didn't know where to start. And that's where sadness comes from, right? Sadness comes from not knowing where to start. Anxiety comes from having too many options and not knowing which one to pick. Well, I'm offering you both to help solve those problems. Underwriting deals is probably a good way to start because you probably want to figure out what a deal looks like. Copying my homework is another way for you to start. So it reduces some of the anxiety. You can just copy my homework and listen to what I say and pick one part in the whole analyzing thing and just say one thing better than I did. That's it. I really sincerely hope that you underwrite deals better than I do because this is the whole point. This is how we help the next generation get ahead. This is how we solve the affordable housing problem by helping people feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more comfortable investing in affordable housing. So right now, where I live, it's a 12 to 15 years wait list for a housing choice voucher. Where I used to live in the apartment building in Boston, it was about 7 year wait list. And at some point, they just stopped taking up applications. So I hope you guys take this time, especially during the weekend. Spend some quality time with your family, your friends. Get their stories. Ask them for their stories. Everybody has a story that we can learn from. Everybody has a story that we can be motivated from. And if you're still out there looking for your passion, I might say interview a parent, interview a grandparent, interview an aunt, uncle, brother, sibling. It doesn't matter who it is, friend, doesn't even matter. Ask them for their stories because if you're still out there and you're still looking for this passion, this one thing that you're gonna get really, really behind on, I bet it's already in your life. I bet there's a story from someone you know that's gonna really, really motivate you, or it could be even just your own story because you're unique in and of yourself. I really hope you take this to heart. Go interview someone. And at the minimum, the worst thing that can happen from it is that you get a great story to tell your kids, your grandkids, doesn't matter what it is. But I bet there's gonna be something that you can learn and your relationship will only deepen with your friend. Just try calling a friend that you haven't talked to for a while. Do that once a day for the next week and see what it does for your relationships. People don't call people out of the blue anymore. And I don't know why. It's almost as if we were so scared that if we call them out of nowhere, they're gonna think, what do we want? And sometimes we forget what it means to just be humans, be kind human beings to one another without any objective, and just to catch up, see how people are doing. So thank you. Thank you for listening to me on a Saturday, and I really appreciate it. I really hope you guys can take something from today's underwriting session today and